what we're going to look at next is resizing and scaling. And there's the possibility of editing your designs by making them larger or smaller. And there are two options. One is called scaling, and scaling will let you increase the design or decrease it by about 20% in size on the screen, but it won't adjust the stitch density. The stitch count stays the same. Resizing will let you increase or decrease the size, but it will also adjust the stitch count so that the design will stitch out much more like the original. So here I have stitched out this little giraffe in the original size, in its original size. I used the scaling portion or function to scale it up to increase the size by about 20%. And if you look closely, you can see is more of the black fabric showing through. The gaps between the stitches are larger than on the smaller design. So that's what happened. It increased the size, but it didn't increase the number of stitches. When I use Resize, so I did the same thing. I took the original design and then I selected Resize, and I had it retain the original fill type, and I'll show you this on the screen. You can see it looks much more like the original design. Okay, so on the screen, I'm going to select that little giraffe. Is down here a ways. He's number 39. And so I'm going to do a long touch or touch and hold to bring him into the screen. I still have my hoop set at 360 by 260. That gives me a little bit more room to play here. Okay, so to try these different options, we touch the edit screen and scale, excuse me. The scale icon is right here. And if you're not sure what an icon is, or if you're looking for it and you're not sure what the icon is for that thing, you can touch the question mark up here and then touch an icon, and the system will tell you what this is. And it looks like I selected the correct option, so that's good. We're going to scale. Now remember, scale will increase the size or decrease the size of the design by about 20%. That's as far as you can go. But it won't adjust the stitches so that they're the same density as the smaller or larger design. So here I'm going to show you what I did. Before I increase the size, I want to show you on the wheel here, there's something that looks in the center like a little lock. That is a lock that will, when the lock is engaged like that, when I increase the size, it's going to increase both the height and the width proportionally. If I were to unlock that, now it looks like, now you can see it's unlocked. I'm going to go back so you can see. We've just got two arrows here when it's locked. When it's unlocked, it makes the width arrows available too, which means I could change the height and the width separately if I wanted to. I really don't want to do that right now. I want this to remain proportional when I increase the size. So I'm just going to go ahead and increase this as far as I can, or as much as I can. And that's all it will let me increase it. So that's what I did. And I touch edit. That's what I did to stitch out that middle design that had more openings in the stitches. Okay, now I'm going to delete this off the screen, touch him and select him, select edit, and with him highlighted, I'm going to touch delete because I want to start from the original again. And I'm going to go back to my stitch menu and select and touch and hold to select the little giraffe again. And this time I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to select resize. And resize is the two little butterflies over here. Now specifically I chose resize with retain the fill type, so I don't want it to change the type of fill stitch that's in that design. And that icon is right here. It actually comes up here by default, selected. So retain fill type is selected by default, it will keep the file or the fill types as they were originally created. So that's what I want to have happen. And then I can increase the size of this little giraffe. And when I do and touch OK, those stitches are adjusted, and there are actually more stitches in than it were originally. So now we've got 9,842 stitches. I don't remember how many there were on the original design, so I'm going to delete this again, and we're going to go back and find out. I'm going to touch the stitch menu, 39, and there were 6,324 stitches originally. So it added 3,000 stitches to the design for us, which is pretty amazing. To have even more control over this resizing, and most of the time when I'm changing a design, I will actually do it in our software because that gives me even more control. But you've got an amazing amount of control here even without the software. I should probably mention, why we would want to resize under different circumstances. And let's say you were going to stitch the giraffe, original giraffe, as it is on or on a lighter weight fabric. If you scaled it up, that would reduce the number of stitches, and it might stitch out a little bit more nicely on a lightweight fabric. So that's one occasion when you might want to, if you're increasing design, let it go ahead and have fewer stitches. Some of the techniques that I mentioned when we went through the sampler book, cut work, thread velvet, freestanding lace, some of those specialty type of designs, it's probably not a good idea to resize them because they've been digitized by professional digitizers at a certain size with there's a lot that goes into that. So if you were to resize them, you might not have the best results that you could get. So that's just another thing to take into consideration when you're resizing.